Papa Nicholas Coffee. Brew some at home today. A family tradition since 1897. Online at papanicholas.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So you were just at Parents Weekend at University of Iowa.
I was. That's why I missed part of Freedom Summit. But
Yeah.
again, I thank the bosses for letting me have family time because that happens once a year and it's important.
Yeah. And you got
because you have imaginary children where I have real children.
you're piling up a couple $1 million in
yeah.
college tuition between G-Tech and Iowa. So we had this conversation at Freedom Summit with Rae Kaplan, who's an attorney at Kaplan Law, eponymously named. And it was about how to reduce student loans, student loan debt. And apparently there's a lot that it's clear there's a lot I didn't know. And I think a lot of people didn't know about the programs where you can reduce student debt and your debt payments. You don't have to wait for the big guy to wave a magic wand. So we thought we'd broaden the audience for this because I think it's relevant with the kind of numbers we're talking about when it comes to financing college education. Rae Kaplan, attorney at Kaplan Law. Rae, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
So,
Well, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about financing your kids' college education. And I've personally been on the phone with my clients and the servicers, the federal loan servicers, who say some really wildly inaccurate things and miscalculate payments. I mean, we're talking if your payment is supposed to be $300 a month, calculating your payment at $3,000 a month.
that's a big difference.
That's
a big difference.
That's a heart attack difference right
Right.
there.
And so the key for us is knowing how the law applies to your loans so that you can make sure that your payment is being calculated appropriately, that you know what the payment's going to be, and that you understand how federal loans work. And the way they work is they're all on a payment track as long as you pick the right payment plan and to be forgiven, either after 10 years or 20 years or 25 years. So a lot of the time you really just have to manage the loans and pay what you need to pay under the statutes to stay in compliance with the law until they get forgiven. And for public sector workers, people who are, teachers, firefighters, police officers, if you're a doctor at a not-for-profit hospital or a nurse, that means you only have to pay for 10 years. And often the payment is very, very reasonable. There are new payment plans also that were just introduced recently that will reduce most people's payments by half. All of our clients' payments were reduced by 50% or more. And it has a 100% interest subsidy. So effectively, it turns your loans into a 0% interest loan the whole time that you're in this payment plan and then forgiven. And then other stuff too, like if you're a senior citizen and you're retired, very often your loan is eligible to be completely forgiven, tax-free. So I just think that if people
Hopefully
knew,
you're not still paying off your college loan as a senior, but if you took out a loan like
Right.
on behalf of your grandkids or something like that.
and it happens a lot. So what'll happen sometimes is we see clients who will have federal loans that they took out maybe when they were in college, then they maybe went back to grad school later in life, then they have kids, and then they're taking out federal Parent Plus loans. And these loans accrue interest pretty much from the time they're dispersed, so often for 20 or 25 years. And then before you know it, you are looking at $200,000 or $300,000 in loans. And it's very scary to think, how are we going to do this? And so where I come in is basically just knowing the law and giving you a plan and a strategy to deal with them and hopefully get them forgiven if we can.
So I know somebody who works at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. She's an assistant state's attorney. She owes about $140,000
Yeah,
in student loans because for undergrad and for law school.
right.
Should she come and see you? Because
That's a
They're-
great question. And the answer is yes. And I'm not just saying that in a
Right.
self-interested way. So it's financialrelief.com and raekaplan.com. If anybody wants to call, or 312-294-8989. But really for people in your friend's situation who work in the public sector, because that's considered working in the public sector, there is an executive order out there called the one-time IDR account adjustment. I'm really trying to get the word out there about this because it expires December 31st. And I don't think the Department of Education, maybe they did, maybe that's why they're kind of keeping it on the down low. I don't think they knew how much this was actually going to create in terms of loan forgiveness, but I think so far it's been $8 billion in loans forgiven. Now there's $1.7 trillion in federal student loan debt. So it's actually kind of a drop in the bucket, but it makes a huge difference for people like your friend. So this executive order expires December 31st. If we can get the IDR account adjustment applied to the loans, then she'll get retroactively credit towards loan forgiveness and potentially get her entire loan balance forgiven in one fell swoop. And if we can get it done, so we have to apply before December 31st. Then if you get the loan forgiveness by January 1st, 2026, it's a tax-free forgiveness, meaning you don't have to pay federal income taxes on the amount of loan forgiveness that you get, which is really nice too.
So what if you're just like, regular kid from a middle income family who goes to a state school or private school, and you rack up 10, $20,000, $50,000 in debt, and you're not taking a public sector job, you're an entry level job in some bigger corporation.
Right.
Do you get screwed like the middle income families usually do?
So a little bit, because people who work in the private sector have to pay longer on their loans, and then usually the forgiven amount is considered taxable income. Everybody seems to think that they're going to change that section of the tax code and maybe it won't be taxable later on. We'll see. But what's the good news is that if you are working, kind of at a middle level job, making $40,000-$50,000 a year, under this new income-based payment plan, it's called the SAVE plan. It's an income-driven formula. Your payment, if you're making under, let's say you're a family of four, making under $60,000 a year, your payment is zero. And that counts as a payment towards loan forgiveness. If you're making around under $32,000 and you're a single person, your payment is zero. And that counts as a payment on that track to forgiveness. You just really have to know kind of how they set the system up so that you can stay in compliance with the law and not pay way more than you're supposed to.
So there is, that's sort of like the income share agreements that Mitch Daniels was trying to popularize at Purdue when he was president there, to help underwrite your college education, and then you pay back on a schedule consistent with what you're earning. So it's tiered based on what you're earning,
right.
And so it gives some sort of accountability for return on investment for that Purdue degree. And of
Yes.
course, ideally, more universities would adopt that sort of, what you pay to this much and you're making this much, and so we'll adjust accordingly. But that program you're talking about at the federal level, it's not quite the same thing, but it sort of operates in a similar fashion depending on exactly what your income is and what your debt load is.
Exactly. So what it does is it makes your loan payments, it really takes the stress out of your student loan payments, because the loan payment is based on a formula that's basically 5 to 10% of your just gross discretionary income. And so that payment is very manageable. And see, people get nervous about it though, because they would see their loan balances increasing even though they were making payments consistently. And obviously that kind of does a number on you, because it just seems like, okay, I'm not getting anywhere. Yeah, exactly. This is never going to go away. But what they don't realize is that loan balance is going to get forgiven. And so with the SAVE plan, the balance doesn't increase because of the 100% interest subsidy. So it's a really good plan. It really keeps your payments low. And the key is that the servicers are so overwhelmed right now with millions of people applying that they are making a lot of mistakes. They're sending out statements with incorrect payment amounts and calculating the payment incorrectly. And so what we want to do is just make sure that everybody knows that there is relief out there and there's no negative credit ramification. So it doesn't negatively impact you in any way. It just keeps your loan payments very manageable until your loans get forgiven. And you might be eligible for forgiveness that you just are not aware of. A lot of our senior citizens are eligible for loan forgiveness. We've had millions of dollars in loans knocked out and forgiven for our senior citizen community who just were not aware that this even existed.
And you had recommendations when we spoke on Saturday about the kind of loans you should and shouldn't take out.
Yes. So the key when we often do pre-college planning for families. So if you've got kids who are getting ready to go to school, I think it really makes sense to have a strategy session with us where we can show you, okay, if mom borrows money, here's what the payments are going to look like, because with Federal Parent Plus loans, the payments are based on the borrower's income. And there's actually a carve out in the statute where you don't, they can calculate the payments just on whoever the borrower's income is. So they don't have to take into consideration everybody's income. So that keeps the payments low as well. So a lot of the strategy involves who should be the Parent Plus borrower, who should not be, who has a greater chance of getting the loans forgiven down the line, and why, and what will those payments look like. And we can calculate them so that you know exactly what the payments will be when your kids graduate from college, and you know exactly how to budget for that. And then you know whether or not when you get the loans forgiven, if it's going to be taxable income. So if you're going to have to deal with the tax bomb, as we call it, you'll know how to, we often tell people, open up a savings account and start putting money in that savings account. If they change the tax code, great, you'll have a bunch of money saved. But if you have to deal with that tax issue at the end of 20 years, you'll have the money and you'll be able to cover it.
Are you just astounded at how much college costs every year?
Yes.
I mean, it is
I
unbelievable. From when we went to school to what it is now, it's
When I went to school 100 years ago, it was, $25,000 a year, and that was outrageous back then.
7,000 a year. And that was okay. Easy, don't.
Yeah, I mean,
roll your eyes.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Still, I mean, but now we're talking 80,000 a year.
80,000 a year is what Northwestern
Yeah.
is.
Two lanes,
and
80,000.
Yes, it's unbelievable. So I think we need to have a reset culturally where we're not
Happened.
putting this kind of tremendous pressure on kids where you have to go to a 4-year college. And if you don't go to a 4-year college, you're going to be a failure. It's not meant for everybody. It really, back in the day, a 4-year college was meant if you were really wanting to pursue a professional degree, right? You don't need a $200,000 degree if you're going to go work at a Starbucks or go work at a law firm as a legal secretary, or if you want to be a housewife, which is fantastic. Why do you necessarily need to saddle yourself with these kinds of loans? You
I
really
want to be
don't.
a housewife.
Yeah.
I
Don't we
think
all?
you missed your calling,
Yeah,
Dan.
exactly.
Maybe we can get you back.
Financialrelief.com is the website, financialrelief.com.
And I'm getting text messages. What's your phone number?
Oh, yep.
Or the-
312-294-8989.
And by the way, I mean, it's just a fun little story. How do you come up with this niche in terms of the practice of law? It was by working your own case, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to figure out how on earth they were calculating my payments the way they were for my own student loans. And so when I realized there was a disclosure on a statement that it was all governed by the Higher Education Act, I thought, all right, I'm going to sit down and start to read that statute. Of course, it's like a tome, it's like this huge thing.
Right.
But really just trying to figure out my own loans was how I figured out this is how it works for everybody. And we can help people just understanding the law.
She is Rae Kaplan, attorney at Kaplan Law. Again, financialrelief.com.
And the phone number 312-294-8989.
Yep.
Rae, thank you so much.
Yes, anytime, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
When life ends, your legacy begins. Ensure your legacy lives on at Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago, with 47 locations throughout Cook and Lake counties. Take advantage of 0% financing, lock in today's prices, and safeguard yourself against rising inflation. Visit CatholicCemeteryChicago.org or call 708-236-5490 to schedule a free consultation today.
Guys, if you've noticed a lack of energy, motivation, and drive, it could be due to low testosterone. Schedule your health assessment with my friends at Low T Center. They now offer the convenience of monitored self-inject at-home testosterone treatments for $155 a month cash pay or covered by most health insurance. If you don't live near Low T Center or you just need the convenience of at-home treatment, Low T Center makes it easy, shipping your treatments directly to you with the peace of mind of monitored treatment. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book online. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker, host